Chosen one, don't scroll. That tightening in your chest when you read, "Be home before it's too late," was not random. Your spirit recognized a warning from heaven before your mind could explain it. Beloved soul, breathe with me. In a world that keeps pulling you out and wearing you down, the Most High is whispering one clear instruction over your life. Come home. Home in the Spirit, home in alignment with your divine purpose before the door of this season quietly closes. You've felt it lately, haven't you? The sudden urge to stay in when everyone else is going out. The way your body grows heavy right before you step into certain places. The nights when you lock your door and still feel watched in the unseen. You're not crazy, you're not paranoid. This is destiny alignment. This is a spiritual awakening to danger you can't yet see. The Lord is not speaking this to scare you, but to secure you. Psalm 91 says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Listen to me. This is not the hour to be everywhere. This is the hour to be exactly where God told you to be. Covered, planted, present, at home before it's too late. There are plans forming against your peace that will never cross the threshold of a life covered in obedience. This is a breakthrough season, but only for the ones who know how to sit when God says sit, to stay when God says stay, to stay calm when the world is shaking. So as you hear my voice, let your heart settle. You are not behind. You are being repositioned for protection, for emotional healing, for the kind of abundance that begins with safety and flows into a healed mind and a true wealth mindset. Stay with me until the end, because before we close, I'm going to pray a covering over your home and reveal why heaven keeps insisting that you be inside before a certain hour. And if you feel something in your spirit stirring, pause and do this now. Subscribe and stay connected to this space. Not for numbers, but so your soul has a steady voice reminding you what God is saying in this season. You don't have time to be spiritually homeless anymore. Because when a chosen one ignores that quiet instruction to be home, it's never just about a location. It's about alignment. It's about which atmosphere has legal access to your destiny. You've noticed how certain nights feel different. All day you're fine, functioning, smiling when you have to. Then the sun drops, the streetlights blink on, and your spirit gets loud. Your heart starts asking questions your mind tries to silence. Why do I feel unsafe? Why do I suddenly feel watched? Why do I feel like I need to get home now? That's not anxiety. That is a spiritual alarm. Listen. There are moments in your life where heaven knows something your phone will never report, something the news will never warn you about, something your friends will laugh off as you being too deep. But your spirit knows. Your spirit has already seen the replay of a future that God is trying to interrupt. You are not built to understand every detail. You are built to obey the nudge. You've had nights where you said yes to the invitation, even after feeling that knot in your stomach. You got dressed. You hyped yourself up in the mirror. You said, "I deserve to have some fun," even though something in you whispered, "Not tonight." And when you got there, the vibe was off. People's eyes felt different. Conversations felt darker. The music felt heavier than usual. You went home drained, not refreshed, not restored, just spiritually exhausted. Does that sound familiar? That wasn't just a bad night out. That was evidence. Heaven was showing you what happens when a chosen one sits in a room God never assigned them to. Your peace is taxed, your clarity is fogged. Your wealth mindset gets attacked because confusion is spiritually expensive. A scattered soul cannot build generational wealth. A tired spirit cannot hear divine strategies. A constantly distracted mind cannot download the next instruction for your breakthrough season. So God says, be home, not as punishment, as preservation. There is a reason the warfare around your rest has been so intense. Every time you try to sit with your own thoughts, something distracts you. a notification, a call, a crisis that isn't yours. People who only remember you when they're bored, wide awake only when your destiny is at stake. They want your presence, but they do not care about your purpose. And here's the part you don't say out loud. You've started to feel guilty for choosing peace. You apologize for going home early. You feel like you owe people access to you, even when your soul is screaming for silence. You call it being loyal. Heaven calls it disobedience. You are not a background character in other people's chaos. You are a carrier of atmosphere. Where you sit shifts things. Where you sleep shifts things. Where you choose to stay planted shifts things. This is why the instruction feels so serious in this season. Every chosen one must be at home before it's too late. Too late for what? Too late for the traps set in the dark. Too late for the conversations designed to reroute your destiny. Too late for the compromise that looks harmless at first but slowly bankrupts your spirit. You felt that, didn't you? When God tells a chosen one to be home, He's not just saving you from danger. He's positioning you for downloads. There are blueprints for your financial stability that can only be revealed in stillness. There are ideas for your elevation, concepts for your business, strategy for your career, healing for your nervous system that will not come while you're performing for approval. Your next level of abundance is tied to where you are when heaven speaks. Some of you are wondering, why does my life feel stuck when I'm doing everything I know to do? But you've been trying to experience a breakthrough season in an environment that keeps you broken. You've been seeking emotional healing in rooms built on unhealed trauma. You've been begging God for personal transformation while surrounding yourself with people who profit from your stagnation. Home is not just four walls. Home is the place where you can finally stop acting. For you, home might be that quiet corner of your bedroom where your Bible stays open and your tears are allowed to fall without judgment. It might be your small apartment that doesn't look like much on Instagram, but in the spirit it's a fortress. It might be your car parked outside, where you sit in silence because the atmosphere inside the house is too loud. Wherever your home is in this season, God is saying, return there, protect it, let me meet you there. There is a holy pattern in your life that you haven't fully noticed. Go back in your memory. Think about the accidents you just missed because you stayed in. The arguments you didn't walk into because you lost the desire to show up. The betrayal you avoided because something in you got suddenly tired and you canceled. Those weren't mood swings. Those were mercy. And here's what the enemy fears: a calm, chosen one. A chosen one who no longer needs the noise. A chosen one who can sit at home in silence without feeling lonely because they finally recognize they're not alone. This is the birthplace of destiny alignment. This is where your spiritual awakening matures, where your discernment sharpens, where God can talk to you about money, relationships, purpose, and protection in the same conversation. This is where He shows you how your divine purpose and your safety are woven together. Because what good is generational wealth if you're never alive long enough or mentally well enough to enjoy it? Listen to me. Your life is not just about surviving attacks. It's about building something that outlives you, your children, your future family, the people connected to your assignment. They are all impacted by whether you learn to obey simple instructions like stay home tonight and stay calm right now. Panic creates portals. Fear opens doors that wisdom would keep shut. That's why the instruction in this title is so specific. Stay calm. You do not make destiny decisions in panic mode. The enemy wants you frantic, scrolling between options, rushing out the door just to prove you're not missing out. But what if, in this season, missing out is actually your protection? What if the party you skip is the ambush you never see? What if the opportunity you decline is the trap that was sent to drain your confidence? Does that shift something in you? Right there, in this moment, if you know this word is reading your life, I want you to do something prophetic. go to the comments and write, "I am safe in God's covering," not as a cute phrase, as a contract, as your way of signing your name under this instruction from heaven. When you type it, you're not just commenting on a video, you're agreeing with a realm that has been trying to protect you for years. Because the truth is, God has been training you quietly, training you to hear Him beyond words, training you to feel the difference between a room that loves you and a room that's feeding on you, training you to recognize how your body reacts when your spirit is grieved. You've noticed it. Your heart rate changes around certain people. You get headaches in certain places. Your thoughts get darker when you stay out too long in the wrong environment. This is not random. It's spiritual intelligence built into your being. And there's another layer you haven't seen yet. While you are at home in obedience, heaven is not just protecting you from danger. It is also exposing you to yourself. The silence reveals the places that still hurt. The quiet reveals the voices you've been trying to drown out with noise and busyness. That's why staying home can feel like torture at first. You meet the version of you that you've been avoiding. But right there is where emotional healing begins. God starts touching the wounds you didn't think mattered. The rejection from childhood, the abandonment you never processed, the betrayal that taught you to expect disappointment. In that sacred space, He starts rewriting your internal scripts, replacing shame with identity, fear with faith, survival mode with a true wealth mindset that says, "I am worth protecting, I am worth preserving, I am worth the wait." You can feel the war, can't you? Part of you wants this. Part of you wants to shut this off and go back to normal. Because normal is easy. Normal is familiar. Normal is ignoring the nudge, getting dressed, going out, laughing too loud, and then staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering why you still feel empty. But you are not called to normal. You're called to elevation. You are called to walk like someone whose steps are ordered, whose timing is intentional, whose absence from certain rooms is as powerful as their presence. Soon, I'm going to take you deeper into why some attacks can only be scheduled at night and why God is so protective of your evenings in this season. But before we go there, hear this with your whole soul. If this word is confirming things only you and God know, don't just watch in silence. Stay connected. Stay under this flow of prophetic clarity. Hit subscribe, not for my sake, but for yours. So that in the moments you're tempted to ignore that inner warning, there's at least one place on your timeline calling you back home, reminding you of what God already said. Your destiny deserves that kind of reinforcement, because heaven has invested too much in you for your life to be directed by whoever shouts the loudest in your notifications. There is a quiet, holy scheduling over your steps right now. Certain days, certain hours, certain moments are marked. Set apart, not for drama, for download, for correction, for strategy. For the kind of personal transformation that doesn't just make you feel better, but actually rewires how you think, how you choose, how you respond. Have you noticed how certain opportunities always seem to come at the exact time you decided to rest? You finally sit down. You finally breathe. You finally start talking to God about your future, about your finances, about your emotional healing, and then your phone lights up. An invite, a message, an urgent situation. It feels important. It feels time sensitive. It feels like, if I don't respond right now, something bad will happen. But in reality, the only thing that's truly urgent is your alignment. The most time-sensitive thing in your life right now is your obedience. There are two clocks running over you, the natural clock and the spiritual clock. The natural clock says, you're running out of time. Hurry up. Go now. Say yes now. The spiritual clock says, slow down. Sit still. Be where I told you to be when I told you to be there. The natural clock is loud. The spiritual one is precise. This is what, before it's too late, really means for a chosen one. Not that God is trying to scare you with some vague doom, but that your destiny alignment is connected to divine timing. If you're out of position when your instruction arrives, you won't recognize it. If you're in the wrong atmosphere when your next idea for financial stability drops, you'll talk yourself out of it. If you're busy entertaining people who don't even pray, you won't hear the whisper that was meant to lift your entire bloodline into generational wealth. Do you see the pattern? Hell is not just after your body, it's after your schedule. Because whoever controls your schedule eventually controls your future. If the enemy can keep you out of the place God wants you, at the time God wants you, with the focus God needs from you, he doesn't have to attack you directly. He just has to distract you consistently. That is why the instructions sound so simple and so heavy at the same time. Be at home. Stay calm. Your home becomes more than a physical shelter. It becomes a meeting point, a designated place where heaven knows you'll be listening. A place where God can talk to you uninterrupted about money decisions, relationship choices, job shifts, and hidden dangers, all in one conversation. Some of the clarity you're begging for is waiting for you in that quiet room you keep avoiding. You think you need another prophecy from a stranger. God is saying, I've been trying to prophesy to you in your own bedroom. You've been saying, Lord, speak to me about my next move. But every time he clears the room and pulls you into stillness, you assume something is wrong. You numb out with entertainment. You scroll until your eyes burn. You fall asleep with noise in the background because silence feels too loud. Listen, the silence is not empty. The silence is full. That's where your wealth mindset is repaired. That's where the lies you believed about money, about success, about worthiness are challenged. That's where God shows you how poverty is not just a bank account problem, but a thinking pattern, a trauma echo, a survival script that says, I have to be everywhere, do everything, prove myself constantly, or I'll be forgotten. But in the secret place, you hear a different sentence. You are already chosen. You don't have to chase what is assigned to you. Can you feel how different that is? When that truth settles in, staying home no longer feels like punishment. It feels like strategy. It feels like training. It feels like heaven building a new reflex in you. Instead of running toward noise, you start running toward presence. Instead of chasing quick satisfaction, you start guarding long-term abundance. And right here, I want to invite you into a deeper agreement. If you know God is using these words to reset your patterns, go back to the comments and write, I stay where God plants me. Write it like you're signing a contract with your future. When you post those words, you're not just typing, you're choosing. You're telling every unseen force, I will not be dragged everywhere anymore. I choose stability over chaos. I choose covering over curiosity. Because there is another dimension to this word. It's not just about you being safe. It's about what happens in your house when you are home. When a chosen one is present, atmospheres shift. Arguments lose power. Confusion starts to thin out. Even the tension that sits in the walls starts to break. Your presence carries a frequency. That's why some people are more peaceful when you're around, even if they don't admit it. That's why your children sleep better when you pray over them quietly at night. That's why certain patterns of dysfunction in your family have already started to weaken, even though you sometimes feel like nothing is changing. You think you're just there. Heaven knows you're functioning as a gatekeeper. Gatekeepers decide what comes in and what stays out. Gatekeepers feel things before others feel them. Gatekeepers are the reason certain curses never fully land. And every gate has a time. There are hours where gates must be watched, protected, covered with intentional prayer and awareness. This is why your evenings feel so sensitive right now. That's why your spirit gets restless when you're out too late in environments that don't honor God. It's not legalism, it's logistics. Your post is your post. Your watch is your watch. If you're not in place, certain doors stand open that should have been shut. Have you noticed how the weirdest thoughts try to enter your mind late at night? You can go the whole day feeling strong. Then suddenly, at a certain hour, insecurity creeps in. Old memories replay. Shame tries to replay conversations from years ago. Temptation feels louder. Options that you know are bad for you start to look like relief. That is not coincidence. That is coordinated. Hell studies your patterns. Heaven sets new ones. God's instruction for you to be home, to be calm, to be settled is His way of resetting the battlefield. When your body is in a safe place and your mind is anchored in peace, warfare loses half its power. The enemy may still knock, but you don't open every door anymore. You stop negotiating with every emotion. You stop answering every message. This is spiritual maturity. And inside that maturity, something beautiful happens. God starts to talk to you about things you thought were too practical for prayer. He begins to show you how your late-night decisions affect your early morning energy, how your spending patterns follow your emotional states, how your destiny alignment is tied to what you consume mentally, physically, and spiritually when nobody is watching. He might whisper, "Don't buy that," or "Save this amount," or "Invest in this skill during this season." Those are not random thoughts. That is strategy. That is how financial stability is born, one small obedient decision at a time. And somewhere in the middle of obedience, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as the desperate one who always needs rescue and start realizing you are the trusted one who carries solutions. The one God can wake up in the middle of the night to pray for someone else. The one God can trust with resources because you don't worship them. The one God can elevate without losing you to pride. This is what elevation looks like from the inside. It's not flashy. It's not always public. It starts with simple, hidden choices. I will be where God wants me. I will sit when God says sit. I will not panic when God says be still. Have you ever wondered why certain seasons of your life felt strangely quiet, but afterward you walked into doors you didn't even apply for? Those were the seasons you accidentally obeyed. You were too tired to go out. You didn't have the energy to entertain everyone. So you stayed home, you rested, you cried, you journaled, you listened. And then, out of nowhere, favor found you. Someone mentioned your name in a room you weren't in. An opportunity emailed you. Help came from a place you never expected. That wasn't luck. That was fruit from a hidden season. Now God is asking you to choose that alignment on purpose. Not by accident, not by burnout. On purpose. Because the next breakthrough season over your life cannot be carried by an unstable schedule and an exhausted soul. It needs a steady vessel, a grounded mind, a heart that knows where home is, and a spirit that knows when the hour is sacred. Soon, we're going to step into the deeper mystery of why calmness itself is a weapon, and how your stillness disarms attacks you never even learn about in the natural. But before we go there, let this settle in your spirit. Every small act of obedience, every night you choose peace over pressure, every time you honor that inner nudge to be home before it's too late, you're not losing life. You are quietly gaining ground. You are quietly gaining ground. Bit by bit, room by room, moment by moment, the territory of your life is being reclaimed without fireworks, without applause, without anyone posting about it. While the world measures progress by noise, heaven measures it by alignment, by how often you say yes to the whisper instead of the pressure. Think of your life like a city seen from above at night. Some windows are dark, some are dim, some are bright. Every time you honor that pull to be home, to be still, to be centered, another window lights up. Another corner of your inner world becomes available for God to work in. Another space is no longer occupied by fear or by people who only show up when they want something from you. You felt it, even if you didn't have words. There are parts of your heart that used to feel like abandoned buildings, cold, untouched. unsafe to walk through. Places shaped by rejection, by being overlooked, by being used. Places where the enemy tried to set up permanent residence. Now, in this season, those same places are under renovation. Not the kind you post before and after pictures of. The kind you feel at 2 a.m. when you realize you didn't spiral the way you used to. The kind you notice when the same insult that used to wreck you suddenly sounds smaller, weaker, like it no longer matches who you are becoming. That's renovation. That's elevation. That's spiritual awakening on a level your younger self didn't know was possible. And here is the wild part. Much of this construction happens when you feel like nothing is happening. When you are home, when you are still, when you are tempted to believe you're falling behind because you're not in the mix with everyone else. You are not behind. You are being rebuilt for abundance. A mind built for abundance does not chase every invitation. A heart prepared for generational wealth does not treat its peace as cheap. A soul aligned with divine purpose understands that saying no is sometimes the most spiritual word you can speak. Can you see how different that is from the way you were trained? You were taught to be available, to show up, to keep everyone happy. You were rewarded for ignoring your limits, praised for saying yes when your body was screaming no, applauded for being strong when what they meant was convenient. And deep inside, a quiet part of you wondered, will anyone still love me if I stop performing like this? That question has followed you for years. It followed you into friendships, into romance, into work, even into church. So when God started pulling you home earlier, when invitations stopped fitting, when crowds that used to feel like energy started feeling like drain, something in you panicked. If I'm not present everywhere, will I be forgotten? Listen carefully. What God is doing in you now is separating your value from your visibility. You are not powerful because you are seen. You are powerful because you are sent. Sent into specific moments. Sent into precise conversations. Sent into chosen environments where your presence is oil, not entertainment. And to trust that, you have to be willing to disappear from places that only wanted your energy, not your elevation. That hurts, but it also heals. Because in the quiet of your home, your value starts getting recalibrated. You begin to see how God looks at you when nobody is watching. You start recognizing that He talks to you about strategy, about timing, about destiny alignment, as if you are vital to His plan, not optional. He doesn't speak to you like a backup. He speaks to you like a blueprint carrier. This is why your nights have been so intense. Not just in warfare, but also in revelation. Ideas arrive out of nowhere. You see glimpses of businesses, projects, books, moves, conversations you haven't had yet. It almost feels random, like your mind is racing. It's not random, it's download. A chosen one at home, calm and listening, becomes the perfect canvas for heaven's planning. That's where God starts matching your pain with purpose, your testimony with assignments, your skills with problems in the earth that need solving. That's where personal transformation stops being a quote and starts becoming architecture inside you. And if you've ever sat there thinking, but I don't know where to start, I don't know how to build what I see, I need you to hear this. Clarity often comes in layers, not in one dramatic moment. Tonight, you might only get the title. Tomorrow, a piece of the strategy. Next week, the name of the person who will help you. This is why the enemy fights your stillness so violently. The more scattered you are, the more likely you are to dismiss small instructions. The more exhausted you feel, the easier it is to forget what God whispered. The more overstimulated your mind is, the harder it is to believe that simple steps could actually lead to a breakthrough season. So heaven is simplifying your life. Removing excess. Closing routes that kept you busy but unfulfilled. You might call it loss. Heaven calls it preparation. Preparation for a life where your inner world is not in constant emergency mode, where your decisions are not driven by panic, where you don't sabotage yourself right at the edge of elevation because chaos feels more familiar than calm. And as this work deepens, something else begins to surface. The real you, not the version molded by expectation. The one God saw before your first heartbreak, before your first betrayal, before you ever felt the need to shrink to keep the peace. At home, in the quiet, you start hearing that original voice again, the one that dreamed boldly, that believed it was possible to live in financial stability without selling your soul, that believed relationships could be healthy, that believed emotional healing was not just for other people. That voice is not naive, it's prophetic. It remembers who you were before life tried to convince you that survival was the best you could hope for. It remembers a time when your spirit believed in destiny alignment without needing to see proof first. And now, in this very season, God is partnering with that original sound in you. He is saying, come back to yourself. Come back to who I called you to be. Let my voice be louder in your home than the echoes of your past. This is why the pull to be home before it's too late feels so serious. Because if you stay out in the wrong narratives long enough, you'll start believing them. If you stay in conversations that belittle your calling, you'll start shrinking your vision to make others comfortable. If you keep feeding your mind with stories of failure, you'll start assuming abundance is for them, not you. Home becomes the place where God rewrites the script, where He tells you a different story about your future, where you step into a wealth mindset that isn't greedy, but grounded, that says, I will not apologize for being provided for so I can provide for others. And right here, as this word presses on the tender places you rarely touch, I want you to do something bolder than before. Go to the comments and declare, my home is a guarded altar. Write it like a verdict, like a line drawn in the spirit. When you put those words in writing, you are marking your space as sacred, signaling that your house, your room, your corner is not just somewhere you sleep, but somewhere heaven meets you and trains you. Because this is training you to trust what you sense, training you to respect your own limits, training you to see your calm as armor, not weakness. Soon, we'll step even deeper into how this calm shifts outcomes you'll never hear reports about, how it closes doors the enemy thought he had keys to, and how your decision to be home in this season is secretly repositioning you for opportunities and protection that will make sense only later. Calm is not your personality. Calm is your weapon. When a chosen one learns to be calm on command, the whole battlefield has to adjust. Spirits that were used to pulling your strings like a puppet suddenly have nothing to grip. People who fed off your reactions feel strangely powerless. Even your own past loses its ability to drag you back through old scenes. You've seen this before without realizing it. Think about the last time someone tried to bait you into an argument. They raised their voice. They twisted your words. They brought up things they knew would sting. Once, that would have worked. You would have exploded. You would have typed paragraphs. You would have rehearsed comebacks in the shower for days. But this time, you went quiet inside. You answered slowly. Or you didn't answer at all. You walked away and thought, who was that version of me? When did I become this peaceful? You didn't become weak. You became dangerous. Because panic is a doorway. Calm is a lock. When your nervous system is in constant alarm, anything can walk through. Lies, accusations, fear about money, fear about your future, fear about being alone. The enemy doesn't even have to work hard. He just has to keep you triggered, and your own thoughts will torment you. But when you practice being still, especially at home, something holy starts happening. Your mind stops being a hallway and starts becoming a sanctuary. Sanctuaries have boundaries. Not every sound is allowed. Not every voice gets a microphone. This is why God keeps telling you, Stay calm, even while everything around you tries to prove that you should panic, because your calm is not denial. Your calm is agreement with a higher reality. Your calm says, I see the storm, but I also see the one who commands it. Does that resonate in your spirit? There are legal things happening in the unseen that your emotions know nothing about. Accusations brought against you, assignments sent toward you, old patterns trying to reattach themselves like vines. When you are frantic, you sign for packages that were never meant for you. That's just how my life goes. Nothing ever works out for me. I always lose what I love. I guess I'm just cursed. Those sentences are spiritual signatures, but when you choose calm, you interrupt that paperwork. You start saying different sentences. This is a test, not a tombstone. God is still guiding my steps. There is a strategy in this silence. I will not agree with disaster over my life. Suddenly, the courtroom of heaven has something new to work with. Your words align with your destiny, not your fear. Your mouth starts reflecting your divine purpose, not your trauma. You step into a posture that hell recognizes. This one is no longer available for manipulation. Calm doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you don't obey everything you feel. And at home, this practice becomes real. When the bill arrives, when the call doesn't come, when the door closes, when the news is not what you prayed for. The old you would have spiraled, but the emerging you pauses, breathes, and listens. You talk to God honestly. You say, I feel scared, but I choose to trust you. Show me what this really is. Show me how this fits into my breakthrough season, even if I don't see it yet. That sentence alone breaks dozens of unseen chains. That posture shifts timelines. Because now you're not just asking, why is this happening? You're asking, what are you building in me through this? That's wealth mindset. Seeing every moment as seed, not just as suffering. A wealthy mind doesn't just count money, it counts meaning. It looks for instruction inside inconvenience. It searches for strategy inside storms. And the only way you can think like that is if you're calm enough to notice. Imagine your mind like a crowded train station. Announcements, people rushing, doors opening and closing. That's what panic looks like. Thoughts blur together. You can't tell which one is God, which one is fear, which one is just old programming. But picture that same place after hours. The crowd's gone. The echo of your own footsteps, the stillness. That's what your mind feels like in holy calm. That's when you can finally hear the one clear instruction. Call this person. Let that go. Apply there. Wait. Those simple whispers are how God builds financial stability, emotional healing, and destiny alignment brick by brick. Not with fireworks, with quiet, repeated choices. And I know a part of you is thinking, but what if I stay calm and nothing changes? Listen carefully. Something always changes when you stay calm. At the very least, you change. You become someone who is no longer ruled by chaos. You become someone who carries peace into rooms like a secret weapon. You become someone whose children, friends, and future spouse can lean on because you don't collapse every time life shakes. That stability is part of your generational wealth. Wealth is not just money. It's patterns, it's emotional safety, it's spiritual structure that your bloodline can rest on. Do you realize what kind of inheritance it is for your children to grow up watching you remain calm in crises instead of watching you fall apart and call it normal? They learn that fear is optional. They learn that waiting is not wasting. They learn that obedience is protection, not punishment. This is what God is really after in you. Not just making you feel better, but turning you into a lighthouse that doesn't move when the waves slam against it. Ships look for that light. Your family will look for that light. Strangers who don't even know why they feel safer around you will look for that light. But a lighthouse doesn't chase boats. It stays rooted. It shines from where it was placed. That's you, chosen one, at home. aligned, calm, watching over your space with a holiness that confuses every plan that tried to take you out early. And yet, there's another layer to this weapon of calm you haven't seen clearly. Calm sharpens your discernment. Discernment guards your destiny. When you're frantic, everyone looks like an answer or an enemy. It's extreme, black or white. You either cling to people too tightly or cut them off too quickly. You invest in things impulsively or you miss every opportunity out of fear. But when you're calm, you can finally see nuance. You start recognizing this person is not evil, just unhealthy. This door is good, but not for right now. This offer is shiny, but it will cost me my peace. This path looks slower, but it leads to long-term abundance. Suddenly, you're not living from reactivity, but from revelation. And revelation is what separates those who survive from those who truly elevate. Let me ask you this. How many times have you asked God for a sign and then blown past the sign because you were emotional? You said, "Lord, if this is not for me, show me." He showed you. They lied. They disrespected you. They minimized your calling. The deal kept shifting. The peace kept leaving. But because you were already revved up in fear of missing out, you pushed through every red flag. And later you said, "Why didn't you warn me?" He did. Your calm was supposed to be your confirmation. When you're in the right environment, your insides settle. Your breathing deepens. Your creativity wakes up. Your body isn't clenching like it's bracing for impact. There is a difference between good nerves and spiritual distress, and calm is how you tell them apart. This is why it matters so much that you are home, in position, during the hours heaven keeps highlighting. Your home is becoming the lab where you learn your own signals, where you figure out how God speaks through your body, your thoughts, your intuition, your dreams. And I feel this strongly for you. You are not too sensitive. You are finely tuned. The reason loud environments drain you. The reason casual sin feels heavier to you than to other people. The reason you can't just chill with anything and anyone. It's because your assignment requires clarity. Prophetic people pay a price for precision. Intercessors pay a price for access. Leaders pay a price for the voices they carry. You have been paying that price without understanding it. God is now giving you language so you stop resenting what makes you different. Your calm is not boring. Your boundaries are not overreactions. Your preference for being home in this hour is not antisocial. It's sacred. And if you can feel deep in your chest that this is you, that your sensitivity is actually spiritual design and not a flaw, I want you to meet God in agreement right now. Go to the comments and declare, "My peace is my permission." Declare it like a verdict against every version of you that felt guilty for needing quiet, for needing space, for choosing stillness. When you write it, you're signing off on a new standard. If it costs me my peace, it does not have permission to stay. Because what you permit becomes your pattern, and what becomes your pattern shapes your path. And your path leads you to one of two places, toward your divine purpose or away from it. Soon, you're going to see how all of this inner work connects to very specific shifts in your outer life. Invitations will change. Doors will feel different. Even the way money flows will begin to respond to this new alignment. But before you step into those tangible changes, there is one more dimension of this calm you need to understand. One more secret about why heaven is so insistent that you learn to be still before certain storms even arrive. Because the storm doesn't start the day you see it. It starts the moment you agree with fear. That's the secret. Most attacks against a chosen one are timed. They're not random. They are scheduled for the exact moment your emotions spike, your thoughts scatter, your breathing shortens, and you forget what God already told you. Panic sets the appointment. Calm cancels it. When you are at home, calm, listening, you step out of the timetable hell designed for you and into the timing heaven wrote for you. One fearful decision can pull you into a chain of events you were never meant to live through. One calm decision can remove you from an entire storyline that would have drained years from your life. You have felt this in small ways. You were about to send that angry message. You were about to drive somewhere you knew you shouldn't be. You were about to call that person one more time, just to feel anything but lonely. Your chest was tight, your thoughts were racing, your hand hovered over the screen. And then something in you said, wait. So you waited. You put the phone down. You walked to another room. You took a deep breath that didn't even feel that spiritual. Minutes passed. Nothing dramatic happened. But if you could see in the spirit, you would have watched an entire ambush dissolve. You would have seen words that would have reopened old wounds fall to the ground unused. You would have watched a night of regret quietly vanish from your timeline. That's what calm does. It edits your future. Calm is not lazy. Calm is strategic. It creates just enough space for heaven to reroute you. Just enough space for angels to shift things. Just enough space for your destiny alignment to win over your impulses. Does that make sense when you look back over your life? Think of the worst decisions you've made, the ones that still sting when you remember them, the ones that reshaped your relationships, your money, your self-worth. How many of them were made in calm? Almost none. They were made in panic, in loneliness, in pressure, in that feeling of, I have to do something right now, or everything will fall apart. That voice is not God. That voice is an alarm system hell installed in you through trauma. And now, in this season, heaven is uninstalling it. That is why you keep being pulled to stay home before certain hours. Why, on some nights, everything in you wants to move, but the spirit in you says, sit. Why you feel that strange heaviness hit your body right when you're about to leave, that invisible hand on your shoulder saying, not tonight, stay in the place of peace. It's not coincidence, it's corrective surgery. God is rewiring your response to pressure. Instead of running into chaos, you're learning to run into quiet. Instead of reacting, you're learning to retreat and receive instruction. And inside that retreat, something else happens that you rarely notice. Your pace resets. The enemy loves to exhaust chosen ones with speed. Constant rushing, constant hurry, constant, you're late, you're late, you're late. Because when you live breathless, you don't question direction. You just move. You spend money you shouldn't. You say yes to things that drain you. You commit to relationships that never had God's signature. Calm slows your steps down to the rhythm of God's heartbeat over your life. It's a different tempo. You eat slower. You answer slower. You decide slower, not from paralysis, from precision. You start praying, Lord, match my feet to your timing. If I'm too early, hold me. If I'm too late, accelerate me. But don't let me be ruled by fear. And heaven hears that. Heaven starts arranging divine delays, holy detours, mercy interruptions. The train you just miss. The text you somehow don't see until morning. The job that falls through and breaks your heart. You cry. You wonder why it couldn't just work. But months later, you hear what that environment did to other people. How it crushed their emotional health. How it strangled their spiritual awakening. How it stole their creativity and left them living in survival instead of abundance. Then something in you whispers, that could have been me. It wasn't, because your calm kept you home long enough for God to close the door. And this is where it goes even deeper. Your calm doesn't just protect you. It protects those connected to you. There are people whose names you don't even know yet who are counting on you to master this. Children who will be born into a house where storms don't define the atmosphere. Friends who will call you in their crisis because they've seen you stay steady in yours. Whole branches of your bloodline that will inherit a different story because you learned how to pause instead of explode. This is generational wealth in its most hidden form. A legacy of stability, a lineage of wise responses, a pattern of listening before leaping. Can you feel the weight of that? This is why the instruction in this title is not casual. Be home before it's too late. Stay calm. Heaven is not trying to scare you. Heaven is trying to secure you and everyone tied to your yes. And right here, if your spirit is burning because you know your reactions have authored too many chapters of your story, I want you to step into a new agreement. Go to the comments and write, "I respond from wisdom, so not fear." Write it like a line you refuse to cross again. When you type it, you're telling your past, your triggers, and every familiar spirit that used to bait you, I will not hand you my future. My decisions belong to God now. Because this is the shift. Calm creates space for wisdom to speak. Wisdom is how you move from survival into true elevation. Wisdom says, store this. Wisdom says, wait on that. Wisdom says, this connection is for covenant, not convenience. Wisdom says, this open door is actually a trap wrapped in opportunity language. A wealth mindset without wisdom is just flashy poverty. A breakthrough season without wisdom is just a moment you don't know how to sustain. So while you are home, while the world thinks you're doing nothing, heaven is tutoring you. Quietly, repeatedly, sometimes uncomfortably, teaching you what to do with money, what to do with anger, what to do with disappointment, what to do with open doors. And slowly, your entire inner ecosystem changes. You no longer look at bills and say, I'm doomed. You look at them and say, God, show me strategy. You no longer see a delay and say, God forgot me. You say, what are you protecting me from or preparing me for? You no longer see a lonely night at home and say, I'm unwanted. You say, who are you trying to introduce me to inside myself? That's emotional healing. Not just feeling less pain, but understanding your pain differently. You start recognizing pain as a messenger, not a master. It tells you where you're still raw, where you still believe lies, where you're still holding on to moments God has already walked you past. And while you sit with Him in that, in your room, on your floor, in your own way, He starts handing you tools, new language, new boundaries, new ideas. He'll say, don't spend your nights chasing closure. Use them to draft plans. Don't waste your mornings stalking what hurt you. Use them to build what I showed you. Don't hand your evenings to voices that mock me. Use them to strengthen the atmosphere of your home. This is destiny alignment in real time. You're not just avoiding disaster. You're constructing a life where peace is normal, not rare. Where abundance doesn't scare you because your character is strong enough to hold it. Where financial stability is part of your worship because you manage what He gives you as if it's holy, not random. And in that kind of life, calm is no longer just a survival trick. It becomes your default setting. Imagine waking up and not feeling like you're already behind. Imagine walking through your own home and feeling safe in your body. Imagine hearing bad news and feeling sorrow but not collapse. This is not fantasy. This is what God is building in you right now. But you have a part. You must choose where you will be when the pressure peaks, at home, or in a place that feeds your fear. In His presence, or in the presence of people who love your brokenness more than your wholeness. With His voice, or with the noise that keeps you numb. And I want you to hear this without condemnation. Every time you've chosen wrong before, grace caught you. That's why you're still here. But grace is also why this word is coming to you now, pressing you, urging you to choose differently before some storms even get close. Because there are certain battles you will never have to fight if you learn to be in the right place with the right posture. Home and calm. You may never know the full list of what you avoided. The car you didn't get in, the argument you didn't prolong, the addiction you didn't activate, the betrayal that couldn't find you at the address it expected. But heaven knows, and one day you will see pieces of it, and your only thought will be, thank you for stopping me. Thank you for that heavy feeling that made no sense at the time. Thank you for teaching me to trust it. This is not about being scared of the world. This is about being serious about your calling, serious about your divine purpose, serious about the people depending on your obedience, serious about the generational shift flowing through your last name. So hear me. Keep letting God pull you in early. Keep honoring the nights where your spirit says, I need to be home. Keep choosing calm when your old self wants to prove something. And as you do, don't walk this journey alone in silence. If this word has been echoing things God already whispered to you in private, if it has described moments you thought nobody else would understand, stay under this flow. Stay where your spirit is fed and your discernment is sharpened. Subscribe, like, and share this not as a casual click, but as a prophetic act. When you hit that button, you're saying, I agree with this alignment. I want more of this kind of instruction in my atmosphere, and I want this word to find every other chosen one who has been wondering why they suddenly feel pulled home before it's too late. Let this be one of the places heaven uses to keep you steady, to keep you listening, to keep you calm in a world that profits from your panic,